Our first guest tonight is a United States Senator from Vermont. Please welcome back to the show our friend Senator Bernie Sanders, everybody. Senator, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Great to be with you.
We've talked a lot over Zoom the last 3 years, but it's been 3 years since I've seen you in person, and it makes a big difference. So I appreciate you making the effort.
My pleasure.
I promise we're going to get to the serious stuff, but I do enjoy talking about how often photos of you turn into memes.
With or without mittens, right?
So this one, you actually proved that the mittens, you don't need the mittens to be a meme. Everybody was putting too much on the mittens. You can do it all on your own. This was in August, and it was you sitting on the Capitol steps, and somebody memed you there. Have you reached the point now where, do you have any awareness in the moment of, oh, I'm going to get memed again?
No, what that was really about is it was an all-night session of the Senate, wearing a mask for like 14 hours, 18 million amendments. So there you are, getting some fresh air and sunshine.
Getting some fresh air. So I want to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really an incredible accomplishment considering it's a 50-50 Senate. Certainly very high hurdles to overcome to get anything passed. Yet it did come up a little short, or maybe a lot short, of what you wanted.
I would say a lot short.
Okay. So do you think it's enough for Democrats to run on in the midterms, or do you okay.
No, I don't. Look, what we don't talk about in Congress and we don't talk about in the media is what's going on with working families in this country. And the truth is that the middle class of this country is falling further and further behind. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. You got over 70 million people who have no health insurance or they're underinsured. You got 600,000 people who are homeless. You got people who can't afford prescription drugs. Kids can't afford to go to college, kids leaving school deeply in debt, et cetera, not to mention climate change. So I think what we have got to be honest about with the American people is say, look, we're in rough shape right now. This is the reality. And this is what we have to do to get out of it. But I think, Seth, being honest with the American people, talking about the growing gap between the very rich and everybody else, you got 3 people in America own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. You got 3 Wall Street firms that have assets of $20 trillion, major stockholders in hundreds and hundreds of companies throughout America. You got billionaires buying elections right now. You're following what's going on. So we got to be honest with the American people about what's going on, about who owns and controls the nation, and then have the guts to stand up to these powerful special interests and tell these greedy bastards they cannot have it all.
During the back and forth, during the amendments, during all the negotiations for the Inflation Reduction Act bill, did you think to yourself, if we just had 2 more senators? Did you think to yourself, if we just had 5 more senators, 10 more senators? What's the difference?
Look, what the president wanted, what I wanted, what I think 48 members of the U.S. Senate Democrats wanted, is transformational change in this country. We wanted to make at least community college tuition free. We wanted to expand Medicare. You know, there are millions of elderly people in this country can't afford to go to a dentist, can't afford hearing aids, can't afford eyeglasses. We wanted to go a lot further than the Inflation Reduction Act in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel. We wanted to deal with the dysfunctionality of childcare, make pre-K free for working families in this country. We wanted to build millions of units of affordable housing, putting people to work, doing all of that. In other words, what we wanted to do, Seth, is finally tell the American people that their government worked for them and not just billionaires. We were 2 votes shy, and I think those 2 votes are going to hurt us a whole lot.
And now, obviously, you have an election coming up. Is it a lot harder to make an argument going into an election that if you just give us 2 more, will make a difference than it would have been if you had passed a more robust?
I think it will be harder, but I think what the message has got to be is we understand, we feel the pain that working families are currently experiencing, that elderly people are experiencing. Give us the Senate +2, give us 2 more, And we are prepared to take on the powerful special interests right now who currently dominate what goes on in Congress.
It must be frustrating for someone like you that has a real understanding of the minutiae of the economy, how it affects so many people, and yet you must also appreciate that you're at the mercy, come election day, or we might be at the mercy of what the gas prices are that day. That not every American looks at the stock market ticker every day, but most of them drive by and they see a number, and that number indicates something.
That's right. You're absolutely right. And yet what we should understand is that while gas prices have soared, have gone down considerably, the oil companies are making record-breaking profits. When people go to the supermarket and see a high price of food, understand that you got a handful of food companies that control the industry that are also making record-breaking profits. So I think what we have to deal with is this issue of corporate greed, of billionaire control of our political system, of concentration of ownership. And we've got to tell the American people that we're going to fight, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. But the fight has got to be for a government that works for all of us and not just for the people on top. And I'll tell you something, Seth, if we are not successful in doing that, you're going to see more and more people saying, I don't believe in democracy. Why are you telling me about government? You give me 30-second stupid ad on TV, and yet I can't afford to send my kid to college. I can't afford rent. I can't afford to buy a house. Don't tell me about that crap anymore. I want a strong man who's going to get things right, get the trains to run on time. And you see that in Italy recently. So, this is not just an economic issue. It's a political issue, and that we can lose our democracy unless you have a government that stands with the working class of this country and not just wealthy campaign contributors.
You obviously wanted, again, I think this is going to be a theme of this interview, you wanted more, debt forgiveness on student loans.
Yeah.
We did get, or it should be said, it was passed about $20,000.
Not insignificant, and I applaud the president for doing that.
I think a lot of people talked about what the political implications of that are, how it can be framed. You, I think, maybe more than anybody else, appreciate exactly what it means for those people who had that money forgiven. How does it change the life of somebody to have $20,000 forgiven?
Seth, I was in Philadelphia maybe a month ago, and I met with a bunch of people, including many, many nurses. Now, we have a desperate need for more nurses in this country, and yet these nurses graduated college deeply, deeply in debt. And this nurse got up there and said, Bernie, we are not, my family, my husband and I, we're not having kids now because of student debt. We can't buy a house because every month we're paying off this outrageous level of student debt. So you have millions and millions of people who are unable to go out and live their lives because they committed the crime of getting an education. I mean, how crazy is that? You want people to get a good education, right? We're not going to have a strong country unless we have a well-educated workforce. And yet people have to go $50,000, $100,000 debt. You want to go to medical school, dental school, we're talking about $300,000, $400,000 in debt. How crazy is that? I mean, that is why, in my view, and I think the American people support it, we must make public colleges and universities tuition-free so that people don't leave school deeply in debt, so that we can have working class and lower-income kids be able to go to college without worrying about having to pay off their debt, for the next 50 years of their lives.
I think that's an excellent point, and I'm glad you continue to bang the drum on that. And I have a lot more to ask you about. We'll be right back with more from Senator Bernie Sanders right after this.